Hey guys, Holy Messiah here and welcome to another Diablo 4 video. Today I want to talk about a topic that I want to talk for a long time now. But before I do, I want to provide a bit of context about who I am as I feel it's relevant. This is not another Diablo 4 bad video. I think there's quite enough of these videos online, and while some of them genuinely address actual concerns and weaknesses the game has, most are only there to farm cheap clicks and engagement because hating on Diablo 4 is a popular thing to do. And popular things get clicks. I'm a lifelong Diablo fanboy going all the way back from the late 90s when I was just a kid playing Diablo 1 on my old PlayStation 1. Honestly, having no business playing a game like that at that age, but I digress. Ever since then, I have fallen in love with the franchise, and Diablo is my favorite game series of all time. I have played and loved every single Diablo game to date, other than one cheap cash grab that's not really worth talking about. At least not yet. I'm also an active Diablo 4 player, playing the game almost daily, while also making content around the game, such as tips and build guides for others. So this is the place I'm coming from. Someone who loves the game and wants it to be better. So with all of that in mind, I think it's time to have a serious conversation about an important aspect of this game: paid cosmetics. This topic may not be super important to most people, and I get that, but I feel that the attitude the Blizzard has when it comes to this issue is important, because it is telling of the attitude Blizzard has for most of its player base. And spoiler alert, it's not good. So join me together in this deep dive of transmogs and paid cosmetics in Diablo 4. But before we continue, these videos take a long time to make. This particular one took literal weeks. So if you enjoyed this kind of content, please consider subscribing. It's free and it really helps a small channel like mine. Anyway, let's get into it. Big video titles take a long time to make. This is especially true for games such as Diablo 4, with huge areas, lots of systems and assets. Everything from voice acting, visual art, coding, and even marketing. Diablo 4 was an expensive game to make. There is no official data on this, but based on similar AAA titles, we're looking at an approximate cost of $75 to $100 million. That's a lot, even for a juggernaut like Activision Blizzard. The game was in development for 6 years, and according to some reports, over 9,000 people took part in making it, one way or another. So it is only logical that Blizzard will want to make a profit, to justify all the time and costs they have accrued during that process. And with a live service game that's getting updated all the time, the idea that the players are also able to pay for cosmetics and other in-game fluff through microtransactions seems reasonable enough, right? After all, it doesn't directly impact the gameplay, and has been a standard practice in the gaming industry for the past 15 years. But there's one major problem. Blizzard needed to make a profit from the game, and profit they did. Apparently, after just 6 days from launch, Blizzard made an incredible $666 million. And as of right now, the game has made over $1 billion in revenue. So we're looking at around 10 times the return of investment. Not only that, but the game wasn't selling for peanuts either. Full price was $70, which is too much in my opinion, but that's just where we are with video game pricing right now in general. So in short, Diablo 4 was and is by no means a free-to-play title, nor did Blizzard struggle to make a profit off of it in any way, shape or form. And so after all that money, surely Blizzard will reward the loyalty of its player base by allowing them to earn some cool looking items, weapons, armors, mounts in the game free of charge? After all, we all paid a lot to play it. Well, no, they wouldn't. And that is the crux of the issue. It is no secret that cosmetics in Diablo 4 are aggressively advertised and monetized. Starting from the shop tab itself, a lot of effort has gone into the user interface to make it presentable and polished. Though my very first critique is that I find it very tedious watching the same animation play over and over again. In the shop section, you will, of course, find various things to buy for real money, from armor transmogs to mounts, etc. Anytime Diablo players get free cosmetics, they are still forced to interact with the shop, which is just one of many tricks devs are using in hopes of increasing the sales of cosmetics. And of course, the large exclamation mark next to the shop that doesn't go away no matter how many times you interact with it. Apparently, that's a bug, but I remain unconvinced. We'll get back to the shop a little bit later, but let's talk about Season Passes and Season Journey first. Diablo 4 is the first in the franchise to introduce Season Passes, or Battle Passes as Blizzard calls them. I admit, I was very confused the first time I played the game, because that concept was not familiar to me before. I'm an old fart, and most games that I play are over 10 years old, and some even a lot older than that. So that was my first encounter with the concept of a Season Pass. But anyway, what is a Season Pass? It's a form of video game monetization in which players purchase additional packages of content for that video game that's on top of the video game's base cost. In other words, we're paying for things in the game despite already paying full price for that game. As you might expect, this way of monetizing the game is very controversial, and according to Wikipedia, Season Passes have been criticized for being anti-consumer as they psychologically pressure customers to spend more money. Nonetheless, just like loot boxes and other predatory ways the games earn money today, Season Passes work, and as such, are here to stay. Paying for additional things in-game is not necessarily a bad thing in theory, if it provides players with more actual content. For example, more dungeons, items, endgame, character classes, or even stash tabs. The problem is that Diablo 4 doesn't offer players any of those things outside of paid expansion packs. The only content you can actually pay as part of these season passes are cosmetic items. Battle passes in Diablo 4 come in 3 tiers. You own the basic tier by having the game. This allows you to get some free cosmetics every season, usually in form of one full set of seasonal armor that is not character specific, and an odd weapon or two. Premium Battle Pass offers all season cosmetics, earned gradually as you play the game, while Accelerated Battle Pass is the same as Premium, but you get to earn the fluff faster. Premium Battle Pass is priced at $10, so not too expensive. This allows the game to have a constant stream of revenue, while still giving something to players with the basic pass. A win-win, right? Well, no. There are several problems with this. The most obvious one is that, while $10 does not seem like a lot, a year has 4 seasons, so that's $40 a year for someone who wants to get the paid Battle Pass every season. Again, for a game that was fully priced at $70, that feels insulting. Second problem is that there is a stark difference in quality between the so-called free cosmetics and ones in the paid battle passes. Ones that are free feel like an afterthought, like a bone that you throw to your dog to make it go quiet for a while. And before you think I'm being too harsh or unfair, keep watching this video because it gets a lot worse. What really compounds this whole issue is that Blizzard absolutely hates any other way of earning something visually cool in the game other than paying for it. There was a missed opportunity for Blizzard to earn a lot of goodwill by rewarding the players for various milestones and accomplishments with some cool transmogs that would have been unique for that opportunity, or even pull one of the paid ones from the shop. That way, no extra resources would have been required. Last season, with the Vessel of Hatred expansion, we got the first co-op activity in the game called the Dark Citadel. It was lauded to have some unique, cool new mechanics never before seen in the game. And also with that, we were promised a chance to earn some pretty cool, unique transmogs along the way. They were exclusive to the event. While I admit, I enjoyed my first playthrough of the Dark Citadel, it was something novel and fun. My first playthrough was also my last. I found it too bothersome to search for other people for the runs, and those promised cool cosmetics? We got one set of armor that was lackluster at best, and nothing else, therefore having no incentive to ever really revisit the activity. But my absolute favorite has to be the reward for reaching Paragon 300, a feat that only the handful of the most dedicated players of the season will accomplish was rewarded with this Mount Trophy? The Mount Trophy is not bad, but come on. It was truly pitiful that Blizzard couldn't spare one really cool transmog to reward their most dedicated player base. Remember how I told you that it gets a lot worse? This video was partially inspired by the newest armor set that Diablo 4 has launched in the shop at the start of the season, called Champions of the Silver City. This set is meant to mimic all the archangels in the Diablo lore. They look really cool, and it is clear that a lot of time and attention took care into creating them. So putting them up in the shop seems like a logical decision. But there's one thing that immediately bothered me. Just like with a lot of their other paid cosmetic item sets, every transmog set is exclusive to one class. So for example, you can only look like Tyrael on a rogue, and you can only use Malthael's skin on a necromancer. And since each armor set is $25 and there are 6 classes in the game, this would mean that to fully use the transmog set, you would have to pay a ridiculous amount of $150. And that is without the mount, which is an additional $25 for a total of $175. That is outrageous. The armor set is really cool, sure, but it absolutely does not justify that kind of price. Not even close. Not only that, but the class armor sets are far too similar to one another to justify having 6 of them. It is painfully clear that the whole thing is just one ridiculous cash grab and nothing else. I have heard so many times on Reddit that they would have actually paid for some of these cosmetic items if only Blizzard wasn't so greedy. And honestly, if the pricing wasn't so ridiculous, maybe I would as well. I did after all get a season pass or 2, and I also paid for Vessel of Hatred Deluxe Edition 2, even though I understand that these things make me part of the problem as well. But how does Blizzard have such audacity to begin with? And if no one is buying these cosmetics, why are they priced the way they are? Well friends, now we are getting to the bottom of this entire issue. But before I answer these questions, we have to go a little bit back in time.
Is there any plans to make this playable on PC, or is this strictly mobile forever?
Are there any? The current plan is to be on mobile, both Android and iOS. We don't have any plans at the moment to do PC. Do you guys not have phones?
Yeah, you guys all have phones, right?
Do you remember this timeless classic? This line was uttered by game designer Wyatt Cheng during BlizzCon in November 2018. In case you forgot the context, I'll quickly bring you up to speed. While the rumors of a new Diablo game persisted, fans of Diablo franchise up to that point received a short end of the stick year after year after year. Remember, last time we got anything related to Diablo after that point was in 2014 when the Reaper of Souls expansion for Diablo 3 was released. But that was many years ago, and the fans were hungry for more. To make matters worse, Blizzard added fuel to the fire to the whole situation by hyping up the event, promising some juicy Diablo-related news. So, what was it? Was it a Diablo 4 announcement? Or maybe at least the long-awaited Diablo 2 remaster? No, it was a mobile game. Enter Diablo Immortal. To say that the fans didn't take the news lightly would be an understatement. But as I will explain further in the video, Blizzard knew exactly what they were doing, and none of the fans booing on the stage were the target audience to begin with. Now you might be wondering, why am I talking about a mobile game when the topic is Diablo 4? But to truly understand the predatory monetization practices of Diablo 4 and Activision Blizzard, we have to talk about Diablo Immortal. You see, Diablo 4 didn't just suddenly decide they were gonna charge exorbitant prices for the cosmetics, or engage in similar acts out of thin air. That would be too much of a gamble. No, Blizzard already had a wealth of data that proved to them that they could, and so they did. Diablo Immortal was co-developed by NetEase, Blizzard's partner for Chinese market. NetEase itself is no stranger to controversy, though that's not something I will go over in this video. But they already had experience in developing similar games, or to be more specific, the notorious gacha games. If you're again, like me, not familiar with that concept, gacha games are live service games that entice players to spend in-game currency to receive in-game items. Most gacha games are free-to-play mobile games that, on the surface, allow you to play most or all of the content free of charge. But in practice, any meaningful progression is locked behind loot boxes and other systems of monetization. While those practices originated from the Japanese mobile gaming in the early 2010s, they have since become a standard for most mobile games currently in the market. So, why would a reputable publisher, whose games have long been synonymous for quality, suddenly risk the goodwill of its fan base by making a mobile game? Especially for an iconic IP like Diablo, with games such as Diablo 1 and 2, which are often considered to be some of the best PC titles in history? If your answer is more fucking money, then you guessed it. But how? After all, the announcement of Diablo Immortal was met with overwhelming negative reaction by Diablo fans, a reaction that, for the most part, remains unchanged. Well, remember when I said that none of the fans booing during BlizzCon were the target audience to begin with? As I mentioned before, Blizzard knew exactly what they were doing and who they were catering to. And spoiler, that is neither you nor me. So, in a list of things that I never thought I would talk about in a Diablo video, here's another. Whales. No, not the majestic sea creatures. In the world of mobile gaming apps, a whale is someone who spends a significant amount of money on in-game purchases. Whales are accounting for a disproportionate amount of games revenue despite representing a small percentage of the player base. Whales are the players who buy all the skins, unlock all the characters, and are not afraid to drop some serious cash to look cool in a video game. While the aim of anti-consumer monetization practices in games like Diablo Immortal is to appeal to a diverse audience of players who would ultimately spend money on the game, it is ultimately the whales that these systems are designed for in mind and cater to. The term originates from the casino industry, but as games of these natures are essentially just an elaborate slot machines, I find it fits perfectly. You might not think that such a small group of players can have that big an influence, but you'd be wrong. According to some reports, mobile game whales can contribute an astounding 50 to 70% of a mobile game's in-app purchase revenue, while representing only 1 to 2% of the total player base. This disproportionate contribution highlights their importance in the mobile gaming's revenue model. In other words, these games earn enough just from 2% of their audience to more than justify their predatory business model and worsen the experience for everyone else. But just how bad these practices are? While doing research for this topic, I have stumbled upon this amazing video by Josh Stripe Hayes titled The Immoral Design of Diablo Immortal. It goes in depth into all the truly awful things Diablo Immortal uses to trick people into spending money. However bad you thought it was, I promise you, it is a lot worse. I will cover some of the highlights of the video that I find to be important, but if you're interested in this topic, I highly recommend you watch his video as it goes into a lot more detail. Literally every single system in Diablo Immortal is designed to make you spend money. At first, it starts small. Soon after playing the game, you are prompted to make a small purchase of 89 cents, and you get some goodies in return. Not a bad deal, right? After all, it's less than $1, but it's a trap. The second you make the first purchase, they have you exactly where they want you. Anything you purchase from that point on becomes progressively more expensive. And before you know it, you're falling into the sunken cost fallacy. If I already paid all this money, I might as well pay it again. After all, it's only $1 more. The game also heavily leans into the fear of missing out, aggressively offering daily rewards for logging in, which in itself is designed to build habits. To keep players coming back daily, the game bombards you with numerous overlapping systems, login rewards, first kill bonuses, and progression tracks, both free and paid. Each has its own screen and UI, making it intentionally hard to manage. Red notification icons constantly prompt you to collect rewards, often leading to more time spent in menus than actually playing the game. In other way, the game is bloated with multiple systems by design. This also extends to currencies. In his video, Josh counted 22 different in-game currencies that you can interact with in one way or another. Seriously, just look at this picture. The reason for this is mainly that by having such a deliberately complex web, it makes it hard for the players to see the true cost of any one feature and masks how much money players truly end up spending. But it still gets a lot worse. Let's talk about loot boxes. Basically, in Diablo Immortal, you have timed dungeons similar to the Pit in Diablo 4 and Greater Rifts in Diablo 3. You go through a randomly generated dungeon, you kill the boss, and then you get the loot. But you also have the option, before starting the dungeon, to supercharge it with something called Legendary Crests. Crests, or more specifically Legendary Crests, dramatically increase the value of the loot after the end of the run. You might already see where this is going. Unsurprisingly, Legendary Crests are central to Diablo Immortal's pay-to-win system. I want you to take a close look at this picture. You can buy one crest with 160 orbs. But you cannot simply buy the exact amount of orbs. No, 89 cents gives you only 60. You can choose to buy 315 orbs for $4.50, but you might notice that will put you 5 orbs shy of 2 crests, which will be 320 orbs. Of course, this is also by design. Let's look at the next pack. For $9, you get 630 orbs, which would again put you just 10 orbs shy of 640, which is the exact price of 4 legendary crests. Well, that's a bummer. What can I do? I guess I might as well just buy more. Oh, look at that! For only $22, I can buy 1,650 orbs. I can buy exactly 10 crests with that. It becomes obvious the entire system is designed for the players to buy the $22 pack. But wait, there's more. Initially, you can only put up to 3 crests to power up a dungeon. But something very interesting happens when you fill all 3 slots. Suddenly, a new option appears to add 7 more, making it 10 crests. Well, would you look at that? That's exactly how much we bought in this hypothetical scenario. How convenient. The option to add 7 more crests is hidden to you until you actually fill 3 initial slots. There is no trick too cheap for this game to pull. And yes, this means that, should you choose to, you can actually spend up to $22 on a single 5-minute dungeon. Now you might be thinking, well, the game is free, so I don't actually have to pay for anything. Well, that's technically true. The game uses other tricks such as artificial progression barriers, where the game intentionally slows down progression, forcing you to engage with the system. And to further drive my point home, here is the direct comparison between running the dungeon with 0 legendary crests and running it with full 10 crests. So, how big is the difference? Josh estimates it would take an average free player about 5 to 6 months of casual play to earn 10 crests. That's just disgusting. Why did I bring all this up? Do I expect Blizzard not to monetize the game at all? Of course not. Listen, there is nothing wrong with monetizing your game. Blizzard spent tons of resources making a game like Diablo Immortal. Millions of dollars went into development of every asset in the game, not to mention the salaries of people working on it. So it's perfectly acceptable and expected for Blizzard to earn a profit off of it. But not like this. Not with cheap psychological tricks and anti-consumer pricing. Not with loot boxes that are essentially the same as gambling, which actually made the game banned in some countries when it came out. And believe me, I've only touched the surface of Diablo Immortal. I didn't even talk about the Boon of Plenty and how it's essentially just a privilege to pay just to have the opportunity to participate in daily rewards. But if you miss a single day of logging into the game, you lose all the potential rewards and have to pay yet again. So why did I spend more than half of this video talking about Diablo Immortal when it should have been a video about Diablo 4? Well, as I mentioned before, none of the practices we're seeing in Diablo 4 exist in a vacuum. When all is said and done, the main problem with games like Diablo Immortal is not just that they have zero respect for the players or that they have no integrity or scruple. All of those things are problems, of course, but the main problem is that it works. Diablo Immortal had the biggest launch in the franchise's history, with over 10 million downloads, while reaching 30 million downloads in just under 2 months after its release. And despite all the negative reaction from fans and critics, despite all of the things that I just mentioned in this video, Diablo Immortal earned over $100 million in revenue within just first 8 weeks, and over $500 million in its first 11 months. That's $500 million in less than a year! What's even more disappointing in all of this is that behind all this mess and shady practices is something that actually seems like a good game. Josh even said so in his video, and having seen the gameplay myself, I have to say, I don't hate it. But I haven't played it and I don't support it because it goes against my values, not because I think that the game is bad. And speaking of values, here are some of Blizzard's. My favorite line in this picture is, "We're committed to making ethical decisions, always keeping our players in mind." Oh really? Blizzard had the chance to make a high quality game, have the players buy it once, and be done with it. they could have broken the cycle of anti-consumer practices that is the norm in the mobile gaming market. But instead, they doubled down and became one of the worst examples of it, with little care or regard about the reputation for either their company or the franchise beloved by many. And as someone who has loved Diablo since I was a little boy, that makes me sad. All I know is the Blizzard of my childhood would have never done this. But I guess that company, along with those values, has died a long time ago. Well, let's get back to Diablo 4 now. So, how did Blizzard have the audacity to charge $175 for a full set of cosmetics in an already fully priced game? How did they know they would still earn money even if it's upsetting to a lot of its player base? Because they already got away with it once. Because they already had the data. Because of Diablo Immortal. They already earned over $500 million in less than a year while doing the most depraved, wild, anti-consumer bullshit possible in a video game. Hated by fans, hated by critics, but highly profitable nonetheless. So when I said that neither you, nor I, nor all of those people booing back in 2018 were the target audience to begin with, this is exactly what I meant. Turns out that we did have mobile phones, after all. It's not just raw data that Blizzard got from Diablo Immortal either. Some of the practices from that game carried over to Diablo 4. Free cosmetic rewards, accessible only in the paid shop for example, free and paid season passes, all these practices were inherited from that game. Blizzard didn't just decide to launch Diablo Immortal out of shits and giggles either. A multi-billion-dollar company like Activision Blizzard has at their disposal some of the best analysts, statisticians, and data scientists that money can buy. People a lot smarter than most of us have made some very educated predictions that the game would work well long before its development has ever begun. And they were right. And I could go on and on about how this negatively impacts the gaming industry as a whole, but that is a bit out of scope for this video. What it means for Diablo 4 is that, ultimately, our disapproval doesn't matter. The exorbitant prices of cosmetics are not aimed at regular Joes, but instead, they target the so-called whales that have enough disposable income to drop a couple of $100s on cosmetics at the drop of the hat. But I'm also not blasting people willing to pay for it. You are allowed to play the game how you wish. You are entitled to spend your money how you choose. This is not the debate that I want to participate in. However, if the demand did not exist, supply wouldn't either. That's just a fact. It's not the people paying for these cosmetics that I have an issue with, however, but the company treating all other players as just an afterthought. And to be fair, it's not like the other companies in the ARPG space don't engage in similar acts. Path of Exile also has some cosmetics that easily go into hundreds of dollars. But when it comes from a company that ultimately gives you both the base game and its expansions free of charge, it becomes a lot easier pill to swallow. And rightfully so. Ultimately, I have typed over 5,000 words and spent several weeks writing the script for this video, but it all boils down to the elephant in the room. I know a lot of you will ask me this. Why is this important? If no one is forcing you to buy anything, you can just play the game without paid cosmetics. And sure, that is true. But it's about the principle of things. It's about how Activision Blizzard sees all the players that spent a lot of their hard-earned money just to buy and play Diablo 4. It's about how we are treated. And I think that is very important. Look, I like pretty things, okay? And I like things in my video game to look nice. I like the video part of the video game. So yes, I do want the option of having a flashy and shiny new armor on my demon slaying character. I want my character's power to be reflected on how they look. I don't want to be one-shotting the most powerful demon lords from the deepest pits of hell while looking like a homeless Vino from 7-Eleven. Well, at least not all of the time, that is. But I want options! And if the only option to look cool in the game that I already paid for is to pay for some more, well then that's not okay. That's not acceptable. Of course, realistically, there's not a whole lot that we can do about any of this. But at the very least, we can have mature conversation about this topic. At the very least, we can put it out in the open. Blizzard deserves to be criticized when it's justified. And it's absolutely justified here. This entire issue could have been alleviated if only this multi-billion-dollar company cared just a little bit more. Just more enough to provide players with opportunities to get cool rewards for doing in-game activities. But we can't even get that. And that's the problem. And that's why this issue matters. But anyway, that has been my admittedly heated opinion about this topic. It's a topic that I care a lot about because I love Diablo 4 and I want it to be better. And I think that this affects all of us, whether we're buying the transmogs or not. But what do you think? Do you agree with me or disagree? Let's have a conversation about this topic. I want to hear from you. Leave your opinion down in the comments. I always read them and I really try to reply to most of them. Also, I spent literal weeks making this video, so if you enjoy this kind of content and you'd like to support me, please consider subscribing. It's free and it helps me tremendously. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Full the Messiah and I'll see you in the next one.